So I'd like to introduce Chemspace, what we are, and what we offer to you, and obviously we'll talk more about implementation of FTrees worker in the web, and use it with real space. So Chemspace is an online marketplace where you can go and search and buy compounds. We offer small molecules, including building blocks, intermediates, and screening compounds. Chemspace has a fast chemical search by exact match, similarity, substructure, and now we have feature similarity delivered by FTrees. Chemspace is free, so you don't need to pay for the access. Chemspace, what you need to do to access some of the functions, including the search using FTrees, is actually need to be registered. We have over 70 suppliers presented on the Chemspace, and most of them, as you can see, they are pretty respectful and well-known chemical catalog providers. As I mentioned, so we are marketplace, and we have over 11 billion compounds you can search and buy from us. And we have different categories, including building blocks, screening compounds, and that's basically real space. As well as some of the compounds, they are collected in compound sets available for download. So you can use our web page to search for the compounds. You can use Chemspace API to access our database, to search in different sub-databases like building blocks, screening compounds, as well as you can use CNI nodes to access our database. We also developed a punch-out site, which is secure and allows you to search in the database. The punch-out site can be customized according to your needs, and it is applicable. It can be worked with different purchasing systems. So as I mentioned, online you can search for in our database of building blocks, which is over 80 million compounds listed now. Screening compounds, over 700 million in the database, and obviously the real space, which is a rather new function for the Chemspace. Most of the compounds we have, they're obviously in-stock items, which is over 6 million compounds, but most of the compounds we offer, they actually make on demand, and those are billions of compounds. And when I say make on demand, I mean that the compounds are not really synthesized, they're not on the shelf, but they can be synthesized because the procedure to make those compounds is actually known and has been done at least once in the lab, like with this aldehyde, for example. So chemists in the lab made this aldehyde in a decent quantity from rather commonly used starting reagents available from the warehouse in a decent quantities. And once chemist is done this procedure and followed all these like 5 steps, he or she can apply the same the chemical knowledge they receive to other reagents available in stock. So basically, make on demand compounds based on the validated synthetic procedures applied to in stock starting reagents. And because everything is new, I mean the procedures and the reagents used to make those compounds, this make on demand compounds are typically listed with price and lead time. And because you have a lot of in-stock reagents and you can do enumeration, for those reagents, you can easily create a pool of make-on-demand analogs to your compound synthesized. So now I would like to talk about this new feature we have on Chemspace, and that's basically FTrees worker that allows you to search in 11 billions of the real space. So Franka, could you please explain that what real space is?
Sorry, I was still muted. Yeah, what is the real space is what we could call a fragment space. And a fragment space is different to a standard library. And with different, I mean it's created by teaching the computer synthesis and giving it the reagents which can undergo this reaction. And it's very fast searchable, and this way we can access much bigger spaces than we can do the conventional way. And conventional way would be enumeration. This is what Yuri mentioned just briefly. Enumeration, for those who do not know the word, is basically starting to collect molecules by writing one after the other down. So like back in the 90s when you were looking for molecules in the Sigma Aldrich catalog, it was like a big telephone book with a molecule and a number and a molecule and a number. And this way most of the libraries, or that's the way most of the libraries are created, by just writing down the chemicals and writing a number next to it. This creates lots of data. So when you try to download, for example, a catalog from eMolecules with 7 million molecules only, you have already gigabytes of zipped smile strings. So that's really unhandy from a certain cutoff on. And you search quite long in there. And there is just a natural cutoff with about 1 billion molecule border, because that creates too much data to store on a standard computer. You need to go in a cloud or something from there on directly. So how do we do those fragment space? I said we teach the computer the chemistry. For example, here a Suzuki reaction in a very generalized way. So we basically only say it's a carbon attached to a boronic acid and a carbon attached to a leaving group, which is then connected. Carbon 1 and carbon 2 undergo this coupling. And I said we give it a list of building blocks as well, the computer, and the computer will automatically find the reagents that match, for example, these two molecules here. And instead of writing down the product on the right side, we cut off those leaving groups. We clip them off and attach little linkers to them, like here the yellow and the green Lego brick. And as I said, we never store the right side, the product side, as a molecule, but what we do store is those two fragments and the connectivity between the yellow and the green Lego brick. So we start out to have a little matrix, because you know all how this works. I add more reagents. On the product side, I would get all the cross products. So the more reagents I get, the bigger gets my right product side. So that's a combinatorial explosion. Let's assume you have 1,000 boronic acids and 1,000 carbons with a leaving group. That makes 1 million products already from this Suzuki reaction. So we completely ignore this product side on the right, but just keep the left side, so or 2,000, I say now, reagents. And as I said, we start a little linker matrix saying yellow is compatible to green. So a fragment space is, so to say, only your building blocks and the way what you can do, or the rules what you can do with them. And this is a highly efficient system, because when you add a second reaction like a Buchwald-Hartwig reaction, you have already this carbon with the leaving group from the reaction before. So the ones with the yellow Lego brick are there already. So you basically only need the amino carbon connection, so the amino group, and attach the linker there. So it never explodes, because those 1,000 you have already stored. So it's really efficient in the handling. So in general, like giving a big overview, what you would do to construct a space is adding all your reactions, then adding the building blocks and pre-processing them the way that I said, clipping off leaving groups, adding those little Lego bricks, and storing the fragments and the rules. So it's basically billions of compounds you can handle by only looking at the building blocks in there. So the real space is constructed from reaction protocols and building blocks from Enamine. Really as an acronym for readily accessible, so hopefully very reliably synthesizable. And those 120 reactions plus 75,000 high-score qualified building blocks create a space of about 11 billion feasible molecules. And there are such on-demand compounds as you already described it before. They're synthesizable within 3 weeks and a success rate of over 80%. So how is this possible? It's possible because at Enamine, the people have a really good statistics on which reaction works out in how many percent of the cases. So whenever they run a reaction, they start statistics on how often the reaction works, and if it didn't work, they will track down as well the building blocks. So what we did is we took only the reactions that work out in more than 80% of the cases and the building blocks which react in more than 80% of the cases the way they were as they were expected. So the real space, the 11 billion molecules, is only those top-notch bits here in this little box. And when I say 11, this is all searchable in less than 3 minutes on your computer. And this is quite impressive because I need to go back on the linear scale from time to time because every one of us is a little bit weak in thinking in logarithmics. So if you start with things like the molecules plus, which is 7 million molecules, as I said before, and go up to here those standard databases like the zinc database or the real database, then the real space is about here. But I need to zoom out now because that's only the last release of the real space. It was the version before from last year with only 4 billion molecules. And the current version is 11 billion. So when you compare what you can search in the real space in comparison to the standard classical methods, you see that you miss out quite a lot from here to here. And in this slide, you can see as well how quickly the technology there grows. So the first version of the real space we released was from 2018. There were 650 millions in there. Last year's version had then already 4 billion, and since May it's 11 billion. So that's quite a massive resource there. And I said you can search it in 3 minutes. And the question is, of course, how do I search in those fragments? Yeah, how is this possible? You come, of course, with a query molecule which has a proper molecule size, and you want to have molecules back and not fragments. So we apply here an algorithm which searches similar molecules in a pharmacophoric style. So it will take your query molecule here and translate it into such a tree of nodes. And each of those nodes contains a little pharmacophoric profile. For example, the piperazine ring here has a certain volume. It has a ring count of 1. Has a little bit donor acceptor feature because we can easily protonate it. Has a no acidic feature, no aromatic feature, but a big hydrophobic feature. So all your molecule will be represented into such a tree, as such a tree. And this tree is then your blueprint for searching in the space. And a second tree will be found. You see already it maps onto each other in a mirrored way. And this tree will then be retranslated into a new molecule, which will be your hit molecule. So when you go into FeatureTrees, you will come up with a query like this and get a hit like this if you want to, because that's the uniqueness of this algorithm. As it's a little bit fuzzy in this Pharmacophore representation, it can do scaffold hops for you, but it can find close analogs as well. And I didn't tell you the full story now, but when I said those this fragment space, when I just showed you the picture of those fragments with the Lego bricks, I wasn't 100% honest because basically it's not molecules with Lego bricks, but little mini feature trees with Lego bricks. And your query is basically a molecule of those feature nodes. And the search algorithm will, like in a little bit of a sequence alignment, find bits that match on your query and will reassemble them over those little linker atoms. This way you can navigate through the space without ever having to enumerate, so write down all the possibilities. And so classical use cases for the space are either scaffold hopping approaches, when I say you can use the option of the space to jump over different compound classes, like you saw it in the example before. And Yuri and I recently wrote a publication where we did exactly the opposite. So we did a SAR by space, where we wanted to find the very close analogs of a known binder in the hit set we had a hit set and wanted to find close analogs in the chemical space and expanded our known set of actives by just a few compounds in a very short time. Okay, in this case, I want to hand back now to Yuri for the rest of his presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Franca. So basically, as I mentioned, we have this kind of look for real space implemented on Chemspace. But let me just actually to demonstrate you how it works. So I'll just pick one random molecule from the recent publication. Actually, it's just ASAP publication in JMedChem. So let me just copy it as smiles. Check this one, this molecule. So this urea, one of the hits that target cannabinoid type 1 receptor. For example, I want to search the closest analogs using the FTrees worker on Chemspace. So I copy the molecule as smiles, and I go to Chemspace. And again, remember, you need to be logged in order to use the real space functionality. Then I just open the Marn.js, then I just paste the molecule, and I hit the similarity search button. And because it takes some time, and as Franca mentioned, it typically about like 2-3 minutes for the search to complete. The results of the search will be sent to your email that you use for the registration. And meanwhile, you know, when it's searching, I can do, for example, refine query and change the molecule, or I just completely run another query. Also, I can try to find the same molecule or the analogs of the molecule by just searching in our database of screening compounds. For example, again, the same molecule, just do the similarity search. So it's not done yet, but yeah, for the search in the database is finished, and you can see that there are some molecules available from different vendors. Actually, the analogs of the molecule available from the vendors, and actually you can basically select the amount you want and order it, or if you wanna process the molecules offline, for example, do some docking studies or ligand-based selection, you can just go to like mark all molecules, and you can export the selected molecules to SD file or to Excel, whatever you wanna do with the molecules. So it's still almost ready. Also, what you can do with the results, you can sort the results based on the in-stock availability, or for example, sort them by molecular weight or price. So as you can see now, we have the result from the real space F3 search, and it looks like this. So you have you'll receive the link with the results. You just go to the link, and then it opens the results found in the real space. Well, as you can see, the molecules looks slightly different. So you don't have, at the beginning, you don't have the urea motif, but you definitely see the resemblance to the query molecule, at least some of the resemblance. Obviously, again, what you can do, you can either select molecules, the amount you need, and proceed with ordering just by clicking add to cart, or what you probably do with the list, once you receive the search result, you rather select them and export to SD file for further processing. for example, this. And then you can just save the search, and you can do whatever you intended to do with your SD file. If you need to order this molecule, so you can do it from here by just clicking again to the cart, and then when you click on the cart, you have your molecules, what you selected, ready to be ordered. So what you need to do, you just need to pick the right currency, depending of the region you're located. Again, check the amount you want to order and the number of those items you want to, for example, you want to have multiple just amounts, and then basically you can proceed to checkout and fill all the typical information necessary for the order to be processed. Also, what you can do, you can process the list of just selected and saved molecules, and come to us with the really list of the short list you want to order. So yeah, this is a kind of brief use of Chemspace and FTrees worker implemented on Chemspace.